Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. A new study finds that immigrant women who go through the legalization process are not treated equally. We'll talk to an ASU professor about her research and hear how One Business and Valley artists have teamed up to highlight the issue of immigration reform. All that coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. A new study finds that immigrant women are subject to stereotypes according to gender roles. The study is called Gendered Paths to Legal Status, the case of Latin American immigrants in Phoenix, Arizona. Jamie Cecilia Menjivar from ASU's School of Social and Family Dynamics. Dr. Menjivar, welcome to Horizonte. I want to talk about the findings of your study, but first give us some background on the study, how long you've been working on it, what you were looking to do.
Yes, thank you for having me here. I started working on this research about 14 years ago. I've been doing research on immigration here in that area for about 4 years, interviewing immigrants from Mexico, Central America, and Cuba initially. And as the years went by, I've been concentrating on the effects of laws at the federal and at the state level on the lives of the immigrants. So the research has been very broad, and we have included the immigrants themselves, but also one way or another related to the immigrants, teachers, social workers, anyone who's related to the immigrants.
And on this particular study, you talked to all those people and you gathered some information that indicated to you that women immigrants are treated differently.
Right. We were, in the process of analyzing the data, we realized that men and women go through the process of legalization in very different ways. Sometimes the law is gender neutral. The law does not make any differentiation by gender. But when it is implemented and applied in practice, we notice differences in how men and women go through the process of fulfilling requirements, go through the process of applying for legalization.
One question before we talk about the specific findings. You mentioned before that your research focused on people from different countries. You talked about Mexico, Latin America, Cubans. Any distinctions as between the groups based upon their point of origin?
Right, and that was the interesting point in our study, that there were no differences by country of origin. The differences were between women and men.
So let's talk about those differences. And when we were talking off camera, you mentioned there are 4 categories. So let's go through those quickly.
Yes, the categories that we looked at are the main categories of immigration. Employment-based visas, family reunification visas, the Violence Against Women Act that includes a portion that allows immigrant women to self-petition for legalization, and political asylum. And so we looked at all these the 4 categories, and we found that in each of these categories, women and men had very different experiences.
So let's talk about what those different experiences would be.
Yes, for instance, with the employment-based visas, we found that most of the men came in, most of the men who were in the legalization process were petitioning as principal visa holders, but the women were being petitioned as a male member of the family.
And that was true even when the women themselves were working?
Exactly, exactly. In fact, we had a case of a Guatemalan woman here in Phoenix who was working 3 jobs. None of the jobs that she was performing qualified for her to apply for an employment-based visa. So she was being petitioned by a male member of their family to come in as an employee worker.
And I assume one of the disadvantages is that if the woman had her own independent status for a work permit, she doesn't lose that status when the male partner loses his.
Exactly, exactly. If the man is holder, if this person is deported or is in trouble or loses in some way that status, that affects the women as well.
Let's talk about the second category, family reunification.
Family reunification is the largest category under which women immigrate. And the reason for that is because we have this visa, the women who do not qualify for employment-based visa come in as related to a male member of the family or some other member of the family. So the largest category for for women to immigrate is.
And how are they disadvantaged in that process?
They are disadvantaged in different ways, but one of the main disadvantages that we looked at in the study is that when someone petitions for them, they have to wait for 1, 2, 3, 5 years sometimes for a work permit to arrive. So during that time, when the visas are being processed, the women cannot engage in employment in the formal economy. They have to work in the informal economy. They have to do small jobs, which reinforces the image of women as dependent. So this is something that we have found in the employment-based
Now,
category.
in the category of Women Against Violence Act, people who come in under that status, that would seem to be a situation where the law is not gender neutral, where it's focused on women, and you would think it would be to their advantage.
Right. And we found that to be particularly interesting because this is a law that is not gender neutral. Yes, it's created for women who are in situations of domestic violence to self-petition. What we found there is that some of the requirements to be able to file for that include, for instance, a proof of having lived together. And for the men who have been in charge of paying for the rent, the bills, all those bills are under the men's name, not the women's name. So it's been very difficult for women to prove that they had co-residence with the men. And on the other hand, sometimes the men become even more empowered when they are in those situations because they can dictate whether the legalization process continues or they
So they find
stop
themselves, the women in these situations find themselves at the mercy of the person who is the reason why they're categorized under the Women Against Violence Act.
Exactly.
Let's talk quickly about the last category, and we're almost out of time. Asylum. How are women disadvantaged in that category?
Definitions of who is in danger politically normally are based on the activities of men who are fighting in political conflictive regions of the world. So, for instance, when women are members of a family and a man is threatened and the man has to flee, very often the entire family is a target, and the women in that family, they can't prove that they have engaged in activities that will have put them in danger as well. Sometimes they have actively participated in the conflict. Sometimes they have fed combatants. Sometimes they have provided some form of support during the conflict, but they can't prove that they are combatants, that they can't prove that they have actually engaged in conflict that would put them in danger. So sometimes the definitions of who is in danger, at risk in politically conflicted regions, is that definition is based on the activities of men and not women.
So in each of the categories that you've looked at, women are at disadvantage. Your research has shown that. Thank you for joining us on Horizonte to share this interesting topic.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.
The Pima County Medical Examiner's Office has a new tool to help law enforcement and the public access data on the many migrant deaths in the Sonoran Desert. AZPM's Fernanda Echavarri has the story.
Since January of 2001, more than 2,100 bodies categorized as undocumented migrants have been found within the jurisdiction of the Pima County Office of the Medical Examiner. Now, most of those deaths are recorded on a website that maps out the data.
When you go to the general search map, say the map of migrant mortality again,
Gregory Hess is the chief medical examiner for Pima County. He says the online database has been in the making for 8 years, and there is nothing else like it in the U.S.
And then here in southern Arizona, it's a unique population because we're interested in migrant deaths, because we've been the primary location for migrant deaths of people crossing from Mexico into the United States, for probably the last 12, 13 years.
For categorization purposes, the Office of the Medical Examiner uses the term migrant for someone who was actively in the process of crossing the Sonoran Desert, most of the times on foot. Hez says the method is not perfect, but in thousands of cases, only a couple of the bodies have turned out not to be migrants.
In some instances, we don't know for sure when we find remains if they are not a U.S. citizen or they're not a Native American from the Tohono O'odham Nation, but based on the effects that they have with them or the circumstances where they're found, the assumption is that it's consistent with somebody that's migrating in the United States across the desert. And most of the time when we do identify people, it turns out we're right.
He says the $175,000 project was funded by an anonymous donor. The medical examiner's office and the nonprofit organization Humane Borders are working together on the website, which will be updated quarterly.
Until the money runs out, and then we'll have to look for another fund. It's hard to make policy decisions if you don't know where people are dying. So having a spatial representation of where that is can be helpful for that purpose.
The website, humaneborders.info, has numbers that go back to 2001. Visitors can narrow down the search by a person's name, gender, cause of death, year of death, or where the body was found. Hez says most deaths are by exposure to natural elements.
Essentially, if the bodies we receive are decomposed to the point where we can't do a full examination, we don't know why they died. But of the people that we can do a full examination, the majority of them have died from environmental causes, either hyperthermia being too hot or hypothermia being too cold, plus or minus dehydration. And we lump all that into a category we call exposure or exposure to the elements.
He says the online tool will help the medical examiner's staff.
We find remains spread in part by time. So we may find a left femur or a left bone from the leg in 2005 in a particular area of the desert, and then a couple of years later we get a report of a skeletal remains found, and maybe it's a right femur and a pelvis and a skull, and we think, well, these are fragmented or incomplete remains. Is it possible we recovered portions of this individual earlier in time? We can use this database to search around a radius from where those remains are found and pull up all the remains that we've recovered from 2001 on with an X distance and say, oh, this could be the same individual.
This is really fresh.
The website is also designed to help anthropologists, researchers, and humanitarian aid groups like Humane Borders, who can use the information to map out where to put water stations. Hez says the information can also be used by law enforcement agencies, who can use the data to track patterns in trafficking and deaths.
If you're the Sheriff's Department, it might help with staffing. If you have a small, like in Ajo, Arizona, which is the far west portion of the county, how many deaths are out there versus on the Tohono O'odham Nation. What kind of vehicles do you need? Is it accessible by roadway, or do you need an ATV, or do you need a helicopter?
People looking for missing family members can access the online mapping system from anywhere in the world, and parts of the site are in Spanish.
This will allow somebody to look at a geographic area, pull up all the remains that were found, have a description of those remains, and see if it's consistent with the person that we're looking for, or if somebody needs to go look, or if there's something else that needs to be done. So essentially, this is a male. We don't know who it is. That's why it says John Doe.
Many hope that by having information available online, the hundreds of nameless remains of migrants, mostly from Mexico and Central America, can be identified.
As the House gets ready to debate legislation on immigration reform, a Valley business and 3 local artists have come together to highlight the issue. We'll talk to some of the people involved with this in a moment, but first, here's a look at some of the artists' work that is being called reform art. Joining me now is Tania Torres Marquez, owner and CEO of Torres Marquez Communications. Also here is one of the artists, Pablo Luna. Pablo, if you regularly move as quickly as you did in that video, the Phoenix Suns, I think, would like to talk to you. We'll talk about your basketball career in a moment. But before we do that, Tania, you're the originator of this reform art,
yes,
as you call it. Tell us what led to this.
What led to this? Well, we've all have seen the headlines lately being dominated by comprehensive immigration reform. We all have a personal story in terms of my staff as to why we support comprehensive immigration reform. For me, I'm the owner of a small business, and I'm also the daughter of immigrant parents. If it wasn't for immigration reform in 1986, there is not much that would separate myself from a dreamer. I was born in Mexico, and because of immigration reform in 1986, I was able to obtain my legal status. I was brought to this country by my parents at 2 weeks old. But since then, I've been able to contribute to this country, I'm proud to say, in several different ways. And so for me, drawing attention to the economic impact of immigration reform is a personal mantra, and it's very important for me and my team that people understand that in addition to all of the social issues that come with immigration reform, there's also the business impact that could impact several different businesses and the economy in this country.
And how do you hope to get that message across?
We're doing it in several different ways, but the umbrella behind all of it is called Reform Art, which is the business community and the art community coming together to draw attention to this important cause. Torres Marquez Communications is the brainchild behind this concept. We are having ads in different publications, encouraging people to call their elected officials in support of this issue. But the one unifying message is that comprehensive immigration reforms, when you look at the numbers add up. If provided a path to citizenship to 11 million undocumented immigrants, it would provide a cumulative $832 billion over the next 10 years to this country. As those 11 million continue to earn more wages, they're going to spend more money on cell phones, more money on cars, more money on homes, and that in turn strengthens an economy, and it also strengthens several different businesses in this country.
So it makes sense from a business perspective. Why art as a means of communication?
You know, there's the old adage that art, that a picture's worth 1,000 words, and in this case, a picture is worth the plight of 11 million, in my view. Art is, it's a subjective art form, but it's also a way to tell the story that can become complicated, but it is a platform that we're using to tell this important message of the economic impact of immigration reform.
And you selected 3 local artists to communicate this message.
That's correct. We are very lucky to be working with 3 renowned Latino artists, which are Lalo Cota, Tato Caraveo, and we have with us here Pablo Luna. They have a great following. You'll see a lot of their art throughout the city. They all have very fascinating backgrounds themselves, and they have themselves contributed a lot to this country as well.
Pablo, let's talk about the work that you did, but first of all, your own interesting story and why this is an issue of importance to you.
Well, yeah, it's important to me because my father was actually an immigrant himself, moved here from Torreon, Mexico, and he's also a small business owner before, and you know, growing up in my family, we grew up more of the Mexican side versus
your mother's American.
My mother's is Irish, Polish, yes, and but we all had to even live in Mexico for a little while so my dad could get, you know, his papers fixed and things, but basically just my whole life has been based on like more of a Latino Mexican, you know, nationalist kind of approach, things like that, you know.
So let's talk about what you were trying to show in the one piece that we had. You moving around so quickly on the screen in the video, but I think we've got a still picture of that so people won't have to.
Yeah, it was probably a speed camera. I'm not really that fast.
You think so? Okay, all right. Well, forget about the Phoenix Suns idea.
It was hot though.
We'll get a picture of your mural on the screen. That's you working on it right there. Tell us what you were trying to do. What do the images mean?
Well, I was trying to, in my way, I was trying to paint something that would incorporate both, you know, the Mexican people and the people of America. And that's why I used the green birds, the quetzals, to represent Mexico, and then I have the blue jays,
which is a traditional Mexican bird.
Yeah, traditional Mexican bird, and then the blue jay for the American bird, which is an iconic symbol in America also. And you know, in the center I have the hands that represent, like, you know, struggle from both sides. They both equally want to work hard and, you know, go for that dream. And I have the sun up there, kind of like the Aztec style sun and the regular sun, which is, we all share the same sun.
So you're showing a real merger of cultures.
Yeah, like.
Give us your thoughts on a couple of the other pieces by your fellow artists. We have one from Tato Caravaggio that has two very prominent historical figures in Mexican and U.S. history. And on the left, it's President Juarez of Mexico, and then, of course, President Lincoln.
Yeah, and his mural is a very good depiction. He has the people in the middle, which represent the people who are here that want to stay here and continue living here, 11 million. And those characters he did is to, like, kind of describe, like, to show, like, there's the iconic figures in America is Abraham, the iconic figure of Mexico is Benito, both great men that did both good things. And the people that are in the center of his piece represent the people who are, you know, here ready to work hard, and some of them striving to be them kind of iconic figures also.
And the last one is by Lalo Cota. And give us your thoughts on that particular piece.
His piece, I like it too, because it has the hands. It represents like the hardworking immigrant, the hardworking man, and it has the, you know, it also symbolizes kind of like praying to be like an American citizen someday. It's got the flag in the background, and it has you can see the silhouette of the family, you know, all holding hands. Maybe,
so as if these people are crossing the border.
Yeah, maybe they're crossing, maybe they're just standing somewhere, but it's to convey that idea, that message that, you know, these are humble people that just want to make a meager, you know, a life, get ahead in the world, you know, and that's all they want. They don't want to be, you know, they don't want to cause trouble. They just want to be here.
Tanya, when you do these events, and as I understand what you've done is you've had the artists actually work on these events in public places, the pieces themselves are going to be on display in your office building, right?
Yes, they are on display during the rest of the summer. We do anticipate a lot of debate coming up in the House on comprehensive immigration reform. So this artwork, in addition to other artwork, will be on display at 6th Avenue Gallery, which is located on the basement level of Torres Marquez Communications. And it's located on 6th Avenue in McKinley. So people are welcome to give us a call, and we can set up private tours. It is important to highlight that the pieces that you saw on the screen are not finished pieces. Those were unveiled just this last Friday during an art exhibit. So if you'd like to see the final artwork, please give us a call.
And there are a total of 6, as I understand.
There's
6
a total
pieces.
of 6 pieces.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. People might say you're just preaching to the choir. And do you really expect with these messages and the audiences of people who are looking up to actually persuade anybody to change their mind, and somebody who wasn't supporting immigration reform now will?
That's a great question. I have the reason why we decided to do this in the first place is because the economic impact message, I feel, has not gotten enough of a play. In talking to non-Latinos and talking to other small business owners, they really had no idea what about these numbers.
So even
they had
though
no
you
idea.
may be preaching to the converted, you're giving them information that they can then use.
Exactly, that they could then educate others and make others aware.
And on that note, we're going to have to end our interview. We're out of time, but thank you both for joining us on Horizonte. That is our show for tonight. From all of us here at Horizonte, I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.